Hey, good evening. Welcome to Freedom Speech News. Slightly late start tonight because of what was going on with my day. I hope your day went well. We've got a few topics for you tonight, and we possibly have a live coverage for a rocket launch, so I'll have to try to be watching for that. In fact, where's my remote? Oops. Well, I see my remote, but I just remembered I didn't turn on the power for that, so I'll have to run over there later and turn over the power. Just have to put it on a different device when it's around that time, or watch for tweets. So we'll see about that. Am I tired of you yet? No. But you are practically everywhere, Wes. And hi, Kelly, and hi, Aaron. And we got people doing things, and I'm sure John is still out there trucking away. So we'll see what he's doing. And I'm just going to throw in a little link and do something for that. So give me 1 second to throw out a couple of links because we're late for the show. And normally I do all these things ahead of time. So just bear with me while I do these things really quickly. Okay, now the invitations are out. All right, got that done. Hello. Okay, so we're ready to get started with topics. So last week, late submission for this one. So this is going to be a little bit older material. So this is a piece of old material from Kari Lake. And let me get that up so we can see it. And bring myself down to a smaller box. So Kari Lake is saying, I have a message for the twice convicted racist Katie Hobbs is a squatter in the governor's office. Don't get too comfortable, sweetie. She's still fighting. She is still not accepting her defeat. So let's see what she has to say, because she's still doing that as of last week. So hang on.
It was a botched election. And then when we had some brave board of supervisors in Cochise County, some of you heard about this, and Mojave County, where Sonny Borelli is from. And they said, now, wait a minute. We're not going to certify this election. Katie Hobbs, in her capacity as Secretary of State, said, you will certify that election or I'm sending you off to jail. This is outrageous. Outrageous. Certify the sham election.
It's not outrageous. It's called the law. The law says you're supposed to certify the elections with the legal vote. You're supposed to count the people's vote. You're supposed to do all the things that the law says to do. The fact that she doesn't like it does not matter.
Election, or you're going to jail, is what she said. Well, I've got a message for that twice convicted racist, Katie Hobbs, who is currently a squatter in the governor's office.
Nope.
Don't get too comfortable, sweetie.
So that's what she thinks. She continues to fight the people's legally cast votes because she doesn't like that she lost. She just keeps going and doing that stuff. So that's what's going on with her, and that's from January 29th. We have a video from Texas Paul. So I'm going to bring that in. Texas Paul talks about Ron DeSantis, Florida governor. There's an ad running right now, so hang on while the ad runs. In fact, I can skip the ad and pause it and fix it so that you can watch immediately. There we go. Okay. So here's Texas Paul. Hang on. Push play.
Well, folks, Ron DeSantis has become the most disgusting piece of trash the Republican Party has to offer. And let's talk about it. Before we get into it, take a look at this video so you know what we're talking about. Yeah, look at that. Ron DeSantis' Nazis came in and pulled all the shelves off of all the books off the shelves in these children's schools. He's doing it across Florida until he can approve, his Nazis can approve what the children of Florida can read. Folks, this is beyond disgusting. This is beyond disgusting. And you have to ask yourself why. And this isn't the only thing he's done. He banned African American studies, which was an elective. You had to choose to take it. Was an elective course that was part of the AP program, the Advanced Placement Program, where kids could get college credit for studying classes in high school. He banned African American studies in Florida. Why? Well, it's easy just to say, well, he's an abject racist. And you would be right. You would be right. He is a worthless racist. He is. But folks, that's not the end of the story. That is not the end of the story. Ron DeSantis is a political creature. He wants more than anything to be president of the United States. And he knows in his heart of hearts, the only votes he needs are racist, broken white people and his Cuban voting bloc in Florida. If he keeps those, he stays in power. And he's going to keep doing shit like this. But the question is, why? Why? It's beyond the fact that he's an abject racist. A big part of it is that he is a political creature. He knows what he needs to do to maintain his base and what will not hurt him with his base. The racists in Florida love this. The racists across the country love this. And what Ron DeSantis has learned from watching Trump, he is incredibly dangerous because he has watched Trump and he's smarter than Trump. He watched Trump use this exact tactic. They do something horrific that does not hurt them with their base, to distract us from things that are much worse that we should be paying attention to. You know, and much worse may be the wrong way to put it, because what's worse than just this abject racism? It doesn't get much worse, but it doesn't hurt him with his base. His base love it. They love it when he does racist, horrific things. That's who they are. And the religious zealots in Florida, which Lord knows there's a lot of those, they love banning books. They think the only book anybody needs to read is the Bible. You know, they love this. So he's doing this not hurting himself, but what is he distracting from? And that's what we need to be looking at, folks. That's what we need to be looking at to get the whole picture. What is he afraid of that he's willing to do something this horrible and make himself this polarizing? Because this destroys him with independents. Independents don't like this trash. They don't like this type of garbage. They just don't. So ask yourself, what is it? Ian. Hurricane Ian. Just like the failures of Greg Abbott, which he has not been able to purge himself from here in Texas with the grid failures and the ridiculousness of going on there. Ron DeSantis knows he has to avoid the label of being a failed governor. And he has very much failed the state of Florida. They supposedly invested billions of dollars in a hurricane-proof grid in Florida, which failed utterly. There were 2.7 million people that lost power in Florida due to Ian. This persisted for months. There were people without power. The rebuilding of Ian is still going on. It is still to this day an abject failure. And folks, he's pulling political nonsense, trying to distract from it. You know, they're having press conferences claiming a victory that the Volunteer Florida program raised $60 million. Wow, that sounds like a lot of money. $60 million to rebuild after Ian. Folks, Ian did $65 billion in damage. $60 million is 1/1000th of what they need. So what have they done? They've done this. Take a look at this. On their own website. And if you don't know what Volunteer Florida is, it is Florida's disaster response program. Yeah, a volunteer program. That was idiocy that I'll get into in a minute. It says call FEMA first. It says call FEMA first on Volunteer Florida. You know, folks, that is the disaster. None of the people that have been appointed by the governor, which they are, the people that run Volunteer Florida, they're appointed by the governor, are qualified to do this job. You remember Heck of a Job, Brownie? The failures there? That is what DeSantis is trying to run away from. He's trying to keep Ian from turning into his Katrina. And folks, it is. It is. You know, they're begging people to please contact FEMA. Joe, please come save us here in Florida. And because we're Democrats, we're doing it. We've got FEMA down there busting their ass. But the state isn't. It's just an abject failure. And for you folks that don't know, Volunteer Florida started as a program. Democrats actually started it way back in the 90s to increase volunteerism in the state to make Florida a better place. Well, because Republicans hate government, they decided, well, we'll get rid of our disaster response system and we'll turn it over to this volunteer organization. And it's been a boondoggle for Republicans since. For the last quarter century, Republicans have used Volunteer Florida to employ their spouses, just like Ron DeSantis did. He put Casey DeSantis in there as a fundraiser for you know, in the trust fund that funds the Volunteer Florida Fund. You know, this is an abject disaster. And that is what DeSantis is trying to avoid. That is what DeSantis is trying to avoid, folks, is because there hasn't been a corporate media story on what's going on in Florida since October. Folks, this is how bad it is. Hurricane Ian was in September. They didn't place the first state emergency shelter in Florida till December 5th. They got the first temporary housing trailer put in place December 5th. Now imagine that. From mid-September, when the hurricane hits, all the way to December, it takes them just to get a damn trailer put out. And nobody in the mainstream media is writing any stories about it. There haven't been any major news stories about Hurricane Ian in Florida since October. Since October. The only stories you get are these ridiculous fundraising stories so that Ron DeSantis can try to avoid the stink of putting his wife in charge of fundraising for Volunteer Florida. And it's abject failure to raise funds. You know, they're having these announcements saying, oh, yeah, we raised $60 million. Well, you need $65 billion. You're failing miserably. On an epic proportion, you're failing miserably. And then you look at the rest of it. When you go beyond Ian, you look at the rest of Florida. Housing costs are skyrocketing. Skyrocketing, folks. It's getting more and more difficult for the people of Florida just to live.
This mistake is costing Amazon Prime shoppers big. Are you still using Prime?
Okay, so I hope you got all of that. I hope you could see all of that. You're looking at something that the governor has done that basically, you know, has people sending money to an agency that really can't help them because it doesn't even have 1,000th of what it should have. And you heard all the details that he gave where things waited for 3 whole months before anything even showed up to help anybody. And he's talking about the power grid. You know, they kept talking about how they were hardening the power grid and putting in all these protective measures, you know, supposedly putting in stronger poles or burying lines or so on and so forth. And yet, you know, everything was just there, you know. So there you go. I mean, that's the net outcome. A lot of times, I want to go to this one next. A lot of times people ask, why do people support Trump and why are they conditioned? What makes them do this? Why do they want him as their candidate? Mary Trump gives us a very good answer. She talks to Randy Rainbow. So let me make that bigger. Okay, and she gives us the answer, and the levels are good. And I'm going to take myself out here so you can see just
specifically because, like I did, we a lot of us saw those toxic men in our families in him.
Yeah, and I think he's in some ways the perfect exemplar because there's a book called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is like the Bible of psychiatry. It's how we diagnose patients. And there are, for narcissistic personality disorder, there are 9 criteria. And you have to meet like 3 or 4 of them. He meets every single one. So many people see themselves in him or see their father or their brother or their grandmother or whatever in him because he's like the platonic ideal of narcissistic personality disorder.
Congratulations, Donald Jessica. We're so proud
He actually
of you.
accomplished that. I mean, that is quite an accomplishment.
So that's part of the Randy Rainbow podcast. So essentially, she gives you a scientific explanation for why people support him. It is because they see the narcissistic person that they're used to looking up to themselves or their loved one, their father, somebody like that, that they're used to looking up to. And he represents that person for them. It's really a case of, they don't realize that he is an abject failure, and they don't realize that the person that they looked at is an abject failure. And so they're used to looking up to somebody who is loud, obnoxious, who doesn't care what he says about people. And that's why they support Trump. And there is, of course, a certain percentage of people who support Trump because they're racist and he's a racist. Surely there are those. But there's also these people that are themselves not necessarily racist, or they don't consider themselves racist, who look up to him for that reason, because he is the narcissistic so-called leader that they look up to. So there's something to consider, and there's more to that on Randy Rainbow's podcast. So go out there and check on him. There's a couple of these that are together. So this one is on AP News. When I saw this story, I knew I had to talk about this one. So scale this so you can see it. Okay, so here's the story. Florida waives mandating menstrual cycle details for feminine athletes. It says female athletes. The claim, let me get that bigger again. The claim going around social media is that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis did this, that he would be requiring female student athletes in the state to provide detailed information about their periods in order to compete in organized sports. However, AP's assessment is false, that it isn't him that is doing it. Now, the Associated Press leans to the left, so they should be a very much trusted source, but their determination is false. They say the Florida High School Athletic Association is weighing the recommendation from an advisory committee, but no final decision has been made. DeSantis Education Commissioner is a member of the association's board of directors, and the commissioner also appoints 3 others, but the association is a private nonprofit organization, not a state agency under the purview of the governor's office. So yes, they can say it's false because it isn't directly underneath him, but yet he appointed, or he is very much tied with the education commissioner. And you could tell that any given day of the week just by looking at what the Education Commission releases as far as emails. And, the fact that that Education Commissioner appointed 3 other people on the board, you can still say it's a nonprofit organization, but definitely the Republicans' hands are in the setup of that board. But they continue. The facts are the social media users were suggesting that the governor himself, who had been an outspoken critic of transgender activities, is again using sports to stoke the controversy as he weighs a run for president in 2024. he may be able to wash his hands of it because it isn't directly under his purview, but you can tell his hands are in there. So the Twitter posts that were breaking were saying that it was him and that it's insane, said one user in a Twitter post. Another said, Ron DeSantis, the government has no right in telling federal employees to wear masks. Also, Ron DeSantis, the government has every right to know when every single high school girl has her period, wrote another Twitter user in a post that had been liked or shared more than 3,000 times as of Friday. And the Twitter user continued, Ron DeSantis is the epitome of hypocrisy and quite the creep. But the proposed mandate hasn't had final approval and wasn't developed by DeSantis' office, says the article. Florida currently asks female high school athletes to provide information about their menstrual cycle on health forms required to participate in sports, but it's not mandatory. So currently they ask for it, but you don't have to put it down. Ryan Harrison, the association spokesperson, confirmed the new recommendations were developed by a sports medicine advisory committee and approved in late January. It will now be considered by the association board of directors at its next meeting in Gainesville on February 26th and 27th. You can expect that meeting to be filled with people. The association is recognized by the state's official governing body for interscholastic sports. Its board includes a representative for the Office of State Education Commissioner Manny Diaz, who DeSantis appointed. Diaz also picks 3 others who serve on the board. Okay, it said that several times. DeSantis and Diaz's offices didn't respond. Ha ha ha, no surprise there. To emails seeking comment this week, but Harrison stressed the proposal changes are not in response to concern about transgender athletes competing in women's sports, as some social media users claim. He wrote in an email, there is absolutely no support of the argument that their recommendation is aimed towards addressing an individual group of people. The Athletic Association's current participation physical evaluation form, which must be completed by a student and their physician and kept on file at their school, asked female athletes 5 questions about their period, but they're all listed as optional. The questions, which association officials say have been on the form for at least 2 decades, include when a student had their first menstrual period, when the most recent one was, how long the interval between their periods typically lasts, how many they've had in the past year, and the longest interval between periods in the last year. The proposed revisions to the form include 4 mandatory questions about menstruation, including if the student has ever had a period, the age they had their first period, the date of their most recent period, and how many periods they've had in the past year. A member of the Sports Advisory Committee said making the menstrual cycle questions mandatory rather than optional is consistent with national guidelines for sports physicals developed by the American Academy of Family Physicians, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American College of Sports Medicine, and other groups. I can only see one reason why you would want this sort of information, and that might be to establish physical norms for the students so that if the student is injured and these conditions change, you have on record what the norms were. So you might, they might want it for that so that they can know what's normal, but it makes one wonder, do they want the same kind of information about male sex lives? Because to me, this is very private information. And to me, it seems like it ought to be protected by the rights of the person to have their medical information kept secret. It should be protected by HIPAA law. He said that having a form that have been vetted and published by national organizations provides an extremely credible resource for doctors conducting sports physicals. He said, "We appreciate the medical necessity of the questions, including menstrual history, that are included on this form and support their inclusion on this form." And he was the committee's previously appointed chairperson and voted in favor of the recommendations. Again, though, he's a guy, you know, he's a guy, he really shouldn't be making these decisions. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think they need to know this information. It's not really pertinent at all. It does indeed sound like this is walking down that road where they're trying to figure out whether women athletes are really women or not from birth. National guidelines say that the menstrual history is essential discussion for female athletes because period abnormalities could be a sign of low energy availability, pregnancy, or other gynecologic or medical conditions. So they're trying to justify it under the, you know, are these athletes healthy or not? But again, it doesn't seem like things that they should be able to get information about. And it seems like to me that there would be religious objections to all of this, you know, because there are several religions that would not like for this information to be public knowledge. They're very touchy about this too. But he goes on to say menstrual dysfunction is 2 to 3 times more common in athletes than non-athletes, and 10 to 15% of female athletes have loss of menstrual cycle or decrease in the number of menstrual cycles per year. Guidelines read. So it sounds like they're trying to justify it under, like, you know, they're trying to be your daughter's doctor, but it's still very, very, very strange. This kind of information should be between the young woman and her doctor. It should not be released to the school. So whatever their justification, it's not valid because it seems to really break the right of a woman's privacy. So you got that. I think that this one was just a tweet. Okay, so there's just a tweet about that. So since we already talked about that, we don't need the tweet. Now, I mentioned earlier that the Department of Education does seem to work very much in his favor. So let's see if I can I make that full screen? Let's see what I can do with that screen. How big I can make that. Okay, that should work. Maybe bigger than that. Yep. Probably can scroll that. So, Florida Department of Education applauds Governor DeSantis' framework for freedom budget for historic investments in per student funding and teacher salaries. So, is there a way to make this go away? I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to make that, get rid of that side panel. Might be able to drag it. No, can't really drag it any bigger. Okay. So I'll just have to scroll it back and forth while I read it. Yeah, I'll have to scroll it back and forth, or I'll have to pull it into something else. Anyway, on February 1st, the Florida Department of Education, oops, I guess I'll just do that. Y'all can wait for a second while I pull that out and put it into something. I should have done that earlier. So let me just pull that out. Let's see, what do we have? Okay, now share that instead. You'll have to scale it to where you can read it. I don't know if I can make that full screen, but I can change the size of the text. So I read the opening part. The framework for the freedom budget includes an additional $200 million to continue raising teacher pay for the fourth year in a row, bringing the total teacher salary increase allocation to fiscal year 23 to 24 to a record $1 billion. In addition, the governor budget prioritizes school safety, teacher recruitment, and retention, and workforce education, while proposing the highest per student funding in the state's history. Framework for the freedom budget is more proof of his leadership in education, said Florida Commissioner Manny Diaz Jr. The budget's proposed record investments in students, teachers, and schools are nothing short of historic, and they will launch Florida even further down the road of educational excellence under the governor, and claims to be the educational state. So this is the kind of stuff that his office puts out. As you would expect, somebody that works for him would put out things that are favorable to him. It claims to include funding increases. It's proposing funding for K through 12 schools of $26 billion to support Florida students and families, which includes the expansions of educational savings accounts. So he's going to fund educational savings accounts. I'm not really sure whether that means that he's going to fund things for higher education. That's what it sounds like. Or he could be funding things to put money into schools that aren't public schools, posing salary increases of $200 million while keeping the current $800 million increase. And saying he's increasing salaries by $300 billion. Saying that new and veteran teachers will benefit. Calling for funding increases. Calling for a funding increase in state safe schools allocation, student transportation, mental health. But he never says, like, you know, they throw out all these big, huge figures, but he never says, like, how much does this mean a teacher's salary will increase? Because it's easy to throw out these big, huge numbers, but never really tell you, like, you know, how much per hour does that mean? What's the percentage increase? Says he's spending money on school hardening. Guardian program, Alyssa's alert, compliance enforcement and school safety training. Teacher professional development. You have to wonder what that means. What is he trying to make sure that they teach a certain subject with all of these book banning things? So recruitment heroes, teacher registered apprenticeship, mentor bonus, teacher scholarships, professional development certification program. And he's talking about making the state the number one by 2030 when he won't be in office because he just won his term and he will not be in office by 2030. He claims he's supporting nursing education. College system program, open door grant program, and performance funding initiatives for high quality workforce training programs. Workforce training programs are things that we used to just call like career certificates, things that don't involve higher education, but get you some kind of certificate so that you can go to work. Framework for freedom budget protects important non-recurring initiatives. $1 million for the Florida Civics Innovative Initiative, $1 million for portraits and patriotism, $1 million for stories of inspiration, and $1 million for school security for Jewish day schools. Well, good for the Jewish schools, but the rest of this stuff, his idea what civics and debate and what his idea of portraits of patriotism is, that basically means Republican indoctrination. So you can expect him to spend more money on that. So that's some of the stuff that they put out. There's another article. So I will put that in here and blow that up too. Weird. I should not have closed that. I don't know why. I'll have to try that again. Okay. I don't know why that's not showing up, but probably have to open it again. Maybe that'll help it come in. Okay, that's being fussy. Well, just have to reopen the window, make it work. That's really strange. Wonder why that's not working. Wonder if I have to do that. And okay, that's why it didn't work. Isn't that quirky? Windows, you are a quirky system. Okay, so this is the other other press release. Governor DeSantis announced legislation to further elevate civil discourse. That sounds fishy. Let's see what he did. And intellectual freedom in higher education. Doesn't seem so based on some of his other policies. Further pushing back against the tactics of liberal elites. Well, there you go. There's this claim that everything is liberal elites instead of people just trying to have the true history read in school, who suppress free thought in the name of identity politics. Who suppresses free thought? That would be you, Governor DeSantis, in the name of your politics. And Indoctrination. And who practices indoctrination? That would be you, Governor DeSantis. Among its many provisions, the legislation will ensure Florida's public universities and colleges are grounded in the history and philosophy of Western civilization. You can read that as it'll be grounded in what we call history on the Republican side of the aisle. Prohibit DEI, CRT, and other discriminatory programs. In your eyes, DeSantis, there's a discriminatory programs, not in the eyes of a sane person, and barriers to learning. The only person putting up barriers to learning would be you, DeSantis. And course correct university missions to align education for citizenship of the constitutional republic and Florida's existing and emerging workforce needs. You can read that as course correct universities' missions to align education for citizenship as taught by the Republican Party and whatever the Republican Party thinks are the workforce needs. For more information, click here. And then this is the statement made. In Florida, we will build off our higher education reforms by aligning core curriculum to the values of liberty, and the Western tradition, eliminating politicized bureaucracies like DEI, increasing the amount of research dollars for programs that will feed key industries with talented Florida students, and empowering presidents and boards of trustees to recruit and hire new faculty, including by dedicating record resources for faculty salaries. That's his quote, said Ron DeSantis. Under Governor DeSantis' leadership, Florida State University systems remain the #1 system for public higher education in America, says this person, and the four-year degree has never been more affordable. That was said by Ray Rodriguez, Chancellor of the State University System of Florida. Rodriguez continued, "We applaud the governor for his commitment to providing our students a high-quality education that focuses on academic excellence and is free from ideological agendas determining what they should learn." Oh, but your ideological agenda is okay. He's continued, "I'm grateful to be a part of Governor DeSantis' education-focused administration and to lead the Florida Lottery in continuing its mission of enhancing educational funding for Florida's students and schools," said Florida Lottery Secretary John F. Davis. "As a scholarship recipient, I was fortunate for a pathway to achieve my degree, and I could not agree more with Governor DeSantis that no student should be denied the opportunity to receive a post-secondary education or vocational degree. This new legislation introduced by the governor today will ensure that all students have the opportunity to succeed regardless of their race, religion, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. He is leading our state by example, in your opinion, not mine, and choosing to do the right thing by making certain Florida students know a brighter future is attainable, and his legislation will help to create a more talented workforce. Talented in what respect? Talented to do whatever you want them to do? Expanding Florida's professional talent pool for years to come," said the lottery dude. This 2023 legislation proposal builds on reforms made during the 2022 legislature session through Senate Bill 7044 to dismantle accreditation agency monopolies, increase tenured faculty accountability, and make the transition between a Florida state college and university more seamless. Specifically, the 2023 proposal raises the standards of learning in civil discourse of public higher education in Florida by requiring the state university system board of governors and state board of education to review and realign the general education core courses to make sure they provide historically accurate, in their opinion, not mine opinion, not necessarily your opinion, foundational and career relevant education, again, in their opinion, not suppress or distort significant historical events, in their opinion, and include a curriculum that teaches identity politics, or include a curriculum that teaches identity politics. So they don't want anything about anything to do with the idea that there could be more than just males or females. Prohibiting higher education institutions from using any funding, regardless of source, to support DEI, CRT, and other discriminatory initiatives, again, in their opinion. Requiring institutions, presidents, and board of trustees to take ownership of hiring and retention decisions without interference from unions and faculty committees. So what they're basically saying is you can't have a union or a faculty committee have any input whatsoever. Allowing institutions, presidents, and board of trustees to conduct a post tenure review of a faculty member at any time with cause. Again, violating anything that might have been in place with the union. Prohibiting post-secondary institutions from using discriminatory political filters. So they don't want anything filtered out, I guess. I guess that means that they want to be able to discuss whatever they want to discuss without repercussion, including political loyalty oaths and DEI statements. In the hiring process. Requiring preeminent state research universities to include annual research expenditures for $50 million or more for STEM-related occupations. So I guess what they want them to know is like requiring preeminent state research universities to include annual research expenditures of $50 million or more for STEM-related occupations. Not sure if that means whether they just want to know what they spend that's more than 50 million, or whether they want them to spend 50 million. Not really sure what that means. It might be trying to say that they want them to spend the money. If it's more than $50 million, they want to spend it on Florida businesses only. But to me, it seems poorly worded and it's hard to understand. Requiring the Board of Governors to align universities' missions to education for citizenship of the Constitutional Republic in Florida's existing and emerging workforce needs. That sounds like they want to make sure that the education is only for citizens of the United States. Like they don't want to have students come in from other places. Providing additional responsibilities and clarifications for FSU's Florida Institute of Politics, including renaming it Florida Institute for Governance and Civics, and providing additional responsibilities and clarifications for FIU's Adam Smith Center with a study of economic freedom. Not sure what economic freedom means or what that means. Also preview that in fiscal year 2023-2020 budget, he is including the following: money to overhaul and restructure the new College of Florida, including support for students, scholarships, and hiring faculty. $5 million for operations, money for capital needs for Hamilton Center for Classical and Civic Education, money for performance funding, made the announcement that State College of Florida, a leader in serving the workforce needs of Manatee and Sarasota counties, and one of the 28 Florida State College, the unanimously agreed to end all discriminatory DEI and CRT initiatives by February 1st. To read the joint letter, okay, you would click there in the original email. So again, it sounds like a lot of indoctrination to me. A lot of indoctrination. So now I'm going to go off to Twitter to see whether the launch is going to take place or not on time. So I'm going off to look for that. Because we're getting close to that time. Okay, so they decided to stand down from the launch tonight. Standing down from tonight's Falcon 9 launch of Hispasat Amazonas Nexus mission due to unfavorable launch and recovery weather conditions. Latest weather forecast for tomorrow's launch is 90% favorable. So it will be tomorrow. And let's see if they give a time for it tomorrow. That page is taking a long time to load, but it might load eventually. February 6th, 5:32 p.m. Eastern, which is 22:02 UTC, which is 10:32 p.m. GMT tomorrow. So they stood down today. They're going to do it tomorrow. And did they go into the detail of this? I don't know if they go into the detail on their own website. I know that I can search for that, though. So we can talk about what it is. So there's the website that discusses what it is. Make that a lot bigger so you can read it. And it is naturally this color. It is rather hard to read. I don't know if they have a dark version. Probably not. That should make it easier to read, though. Okay, so it's called Amazonas Nexus. Hispasat was awarded the Thales Alenia Space construction of the Amazonas Nexus satellite. It's designed to replace and expand the capacities of the previous satellite in orbit at 61 degrees west longitude. If I'm saying that correctly, I always get longitude and latitude confused. The new high throughput satellite will enable Hispasat to access new customers and markets by delivering high capacity mobility services to the air and maritime transport sectors, among others. So it's a communications satellite that will also serve aircraft and ships at sea. It'll continue the provision of services to current customers that use the capacities of Amazonas 2 as a prime contractor. Thales Alenia Space is responsible for the satellite design, production, and testing and orbit acceptance test. It features a new digital transparent processor, a technological breakthrough that's essential to increase the geographical flexibility of the mission to respond to eventual evolutions with respect to initially envisioned commercial scenario. Thanks to this element, the satellite payload will be digitally processed, allowing to assign in orbit the required capacities at any time, providing the satellite with great resilience to the evolution of the communications market. That's a bunch of fancy wording that means they can reprogram the satellite to operate in a different standard and improve as time goes on without replacing the satellite. Because normally when you launch a satellite, you're launching a satellite to do a specific thing. And if you change the communication standard, then you have to deorbit the satellite and put up another satellite. What they're saying is if the communication system evolves over the time that the satellite should be a viable, useful satellite, they can update it the same way that many of your products can be updated through software updates or firmware updates. So they're saying it's an updatable satellite. The new satellite will have coverage over the whole American continent, the Atlantic corridors north and south, air and maritime traffic areas, and Greenland, and will enable the provision of leading-edge telecommunications services in KU band. Amazonas Nexus marks the start of a new generation of satellites in Hipposat suite with an innovative architecture that also features Ka band capacity to optimize communications between the gateways in the satellite, allowing to multiply the total onboard capacity available for commercial use, thus improving to a great extent the capacity. So it does its job of communicating on KU band, which is where a great many of satellites operate now. And it also talks on Ka band, so it can talk satellite to satellite to optimize communications between satellites. Because traditionally old satellite, you had to be able to shoot up to the satellite, receive back down from the satellite. So you're uplinking and you're downlinking. And if you went beyond the horizon that the satellite could be seen at for the uplink and the downlink, if you need to go beyond that, like traditionally when you have to go around the world, you can go within a certain area. You can uplink, you can downlink. If you need to go around the world, you need uplink, downlink, uplink again, and downlink again. And that's why each satellite, uplink and downlink, just the transmission part of it is a 2-second delay. If it's digitized, you have digitizing it, converting it back. You have additional delays for that. So if you've ever noticed, if they talk to somebody on the other side of the world in an interview, at the very least, there's 8 seconds of delay because there's 2 seconds going this way. There's 2 seconds for the next hop. And there's 2 seconds coming back and another 2 seconds coming back. So when you add 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, you get 8. So that's why it takes so long for somebody to respond from the other side of the world. And that's in an analog transmission. When you digitize it, it takes longer. Although if it's just audio that you're processing, or if you have really high speed digitizing circuits, you can minimize the delay. It just depends on what you're doing with it. They go on to detail the rest of the satellite, that it has electric propulsion and that it's lighter because of that. It has an estimated lifetime of 15 years. They go into the power level and the weight of the satellite. So this is all the nuts and bolts of the satellite, but basically it's a communications satellite, so it makes communications possible. But it is a newer, better breed of communications satellite. And when I first read about it, I thought that it was just internet, but it's probably a variety of different things. I mean, it could be serving specifically for internet. Let's see if it says that. It just says telecommunications. So it's a telecommunications satellite, but it is a new breed, improved, fancier, better one. Hey, Trucker John. So that's kind of what we're that's what you're looking at tonight. Okay, so I had one more. This one I wanted to discuss. This is actually a bit of a local story. But a lot of you have possibly seen this sheriff on TV, and you would see him probably in a news story. You might have seen him with President Trump. He has been seen a lot of times behind President Trump, and he's often seen around Ron DeSantis as well. Let me see. I want to make that bigger. Yes, I do. So here's what the story is about. The story is on WFIT, a public radio station. Brevard Sheriff Wayne Ivey sued for wheel of fugitive defamation. The article probably gets into that, Yeah, it does. The man's filed a defamation lawsuit against Brevard Sheriff Wayne Ivey, who posts weekly Wheel of Fugitive videos on social media, saying that he wasn't a fugitive when his name and image appeared several times in 2021 in the sheriff's post inspired by the long-running TV game show Wheel of Fortune. So we have a fake in chat. Isn't that interesting? Chat, if you see my name in chat, that's not me. Okay. Just pay attention to that. Okay. I don't chat under my name in the middle of this show. Because of the sheriff's post, David Gay lost a job and suffered emotional distress, according to the lawsuit seeking more than $50,000 in damages. The lawsuit was filed last week in the state court of Brevard County along Florida's Space Coast. Gay's prospective boss called him as he was driving to his first day of work and told him not to bother showing up, as he's seen Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey's Wheel of Fugitive videos, the lawsuit said. I don't know whether the article really gets into this, but basically what the sheriff does is he has this thing every week. He's looking for these fugitives. He spins this wheel. It stops on somebody. He identifies the person and says they committed such and such crime. And it's a matter of trying to play as though there's some kind of TV game show about stopping crime. I don't remember whether there's monetary gain for the person who makes the report. It's possible there is, but that's how it works. And people that like the sheriff like this show because they think that it's really cool, and they think that it's a good way to catch more criminals. A spokesperson for the sheriff's office on Monday didn't respond to an emailed inquiry seeking comment about the lawsuit. In the videos posted to social media, Ivey spins a wheel with photos of what are described as 10 of the county's most wanted fugitives. Okay, it does get into that. The Associated Press reported Ivey as saying the following: everybody watches it, even the fugitive watch it. I don't. To see who becomes fugitive of the week. Gay was involved in the court system for an undisclosed offense and was sentenced in November 2020 to 3 years of probation for withhold of adjudication, a special sentence in which a defendant is not formally convicted of an offense, the lawsuit said. So his picture would have been taken by the system. He was taken into custody for a violation of probation in January 2021 after he had been arrested several weeks early on a misdemeanor domestic battery charge. So again, his picture was taken. He says he believed his father had gotten into a physical altercation with his mother, and the case was dismissed eventually. However, while Gay was in jail for violation of probation arrest, Ivey said in a Wheel of Fugitive video that Gay was a fugitive when in reality he was already in the Brevard County Jail, according to the lawsuit. So that's the real thing. is that he was already in jail when he appeared on this show, and there's no way that he should have been appearing on the show. There should be some kind of checks and balances to determine that, people that are already in jail are checked off, but obviously they're so eager to produce the show. Nobody checked it for accuracy. He was featured in 3 more episodes of Wheel of Fugitive, including on the day after he was sentenced to probation under the same terms that previously had been imposed and was released from custody, the lawsuit said. So there you go. I mean, here is this county sheriff that all the MAGA loves so much, and he can't even make sure that his show is producing accurate information. He lost this guy a job, and he hasn't done anything to correct it. And so there's what happens when you're busy going around chasing around the Trump campaign, because he was chasing around the Trump campaign in 2021. You go around chasing the Trump campaign here and there and everywhere, and you go around chasing Ron DeSantis here and there and everywhere, and you don't do your job and you don't check your work. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so y'all are talking about the colors you are. I don't see those colors in this. I like this one. The Sheriff Manufacturing Company needs to update their model line. The balding fat design is getting old. Yes, I did mean to say former president of the United States. Yes, I do hope that the man who has the lawsuit wins. I won't, Nick Rich. I just kind of slipped up there, but I'm just saying that to that guy, to that sheriff, he is still president, and he's not. It's not so much whether they feel bad or embarrassed. It has to do with the fact that a person should not lose his job because he's on a show that he shouldn't be on because he wasn't a fugitive. And so, he wasn't even guilty of the thing he was put in jail for. So therefore, he should not lose his job for being, quote unquote, a fugitive, which is a felony. So it's that. Nick Rich, if you want to call and you got the number, I'd have to turn it on. And trolls, all you're doing is elevating my channel by being here. So You know, your presence only makes me more popular. So, Nick, I had to set it up. I was hoping you had talked to me earlier this week. And if you have the same number as last week, I'll let you know when it's ready. Okay, Nick, you can try if you want. Y'all worrying about those colors on YouTube. I can't even see those. I guess they're alternating colors so that you can see things because of what they do. Jim, if you were put in a timeout, it was probably a mistake. Sorry about that, Jim. Anybody can steal anybody's picture in this medium. What you have there is trolls. Trolls steal pictures, they steal identities, they come on and pretend to be other people. They attempt to get people to react as such, but we're not going to play that game. Yeah, anybody can take anybody's picture. I can't do anything about that. I'm not YouTube. Sorry. Seems to me the troll would be interested in taking the person that they thought was least likely to be, you know, identified as a real person. So it is what it is. Of course, it's disturbing. That always happens all over every day on YouTube. So Nick, are you calling? Because I don't see you in chat. I tried the number. What area code are you calling from, Nick? Type the first 3 digits of your phone number, the area code. And more specifically, Nick, are you dialing my area code with a 1 in front of it if you have an old-fashioned phone? Because if you're dialing my number without the area code, that would be the reason why. I dial from the cell phone, so I never bother to include the area. I never bother to include the 1. So if you're dialing from a traditional, ordinary phone, or one of those phones provided by AT&T that is a broadband phone or some other broadband phone, you probably have to dial the 1 first. So Nick, if you're going to call, call. No, they can't see details. The only thing they can see is what you publicly share, but everybody's picture is public and everybody's name is public. If you're here, if you're here and you're chatting, you're public. That's just the way it is. It's okay, Amy. Welcome back, ADM FLA GURL 38. And if the phone is not working right, then I'll have to tweak it to call the other way because I've tried it different ways. Oh, okay, it is ringing. Hey, is this Benny?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, honey.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. I just wanted to let you know that I'm sitting over here in the bushes, since you started your stream, since you went live. And I'm watching what a stellar job the mods are doing. And I want to tell you, Ken, I admire your cool and your calm and your savoir-faire because you're very chill, and that helps me stay very chill, even when we're talking about shitty subjects like Republicans
Yeah.
and all of their you know, shenanigans. Let's just call them that to be nice. But yeah, I wanted to tell you with my own voice so you could hear me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We don't get to talk too much on Talk, so I wanted to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate what you're doing. And you're doing it with grace and dignity, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, Benny. That's really nice coming from you.
Well, it's the truth. That's all you're ever going to get from me. Sometimes the truth isn't nice, but it's the truth.
Okay.
All right, honey. I'm going to let you go. Somebody else can call in.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Let me know. Bye.
Bye. So I'm going to save that one. Okay. Nick Rich, you want to try now? And we have something new. The latest from Lauren Boebert. Rocky Mike says, you're actually in Congress. As the 3rd District of Colorado ever looked stupider? And Boebert had said, Joe Biden has just given the okay for Chinese spy balloons to fly all over our nation. Now there's one flying over Latin America too. Have we ever looked weaker, she says, at 8:28 a.m. on yesterday's date. But the reality is that Biden gave the order to destroy the balloon on Wednesday, not Saturday, Wednesday. So he gave the order to destroy it on Wednesday. The military decided to wait. The military decided to wait until it was over the Atlantic Ocean to take it down for the safety of the public. So there's that reason and only that reason for the delay. No other reason other than the safety of the public. Because who knew what was inside the balloon? Who knew precisely where it would land given the wind currents over the United States? And so there's all of those concerns. I mean, it could have had toxic materials inside, could have been some kind of shrapnel. There's many things it could have been. So you can't really take that for granted and take the risk involved in having it come down and hit somebody in the public. And also the fact that if it does land in someone's actual yard, it is that person's property, and then the government couldn't take it. And so you could have somebody potentially having access to something that's very dangerous and not being able to handle the danger involved. Here we go. The woke libs are coming for chocolate milk now. House Judiciary GOP. Mayor Adams' threat to ban chocolate milk in schools is a non-starter. I'm standing up to make sure our New York students have flavored milk options. Save chocolate milk. What is Elise Stefanik? I guess, and she's a Republican, so she's trying to say that we're coming after their chocolate milk, which is not true. So Nick Rich, did you try to call my number before? And if you did you leave a message without saying who you were? Because you could have got blocked for doing that. So you either need to dial a 1 before the number, as in 1772 and the rest of the number, or you're not dialing the number correctly because you didn't copy it down the same way it was given to you, or you're blocked. Now you could have got blocked if you called and complained and didn't identify who you were. But I think I unblocked the persons that might be you because I did that based on area code. Now I know you don't want to give your number on the screen, but if you called in the past and you're getting a busy signal, it could be because you're blocked. And you know that Benny Loco got through, so you know the number works. The only other thing it could be is that you can't dial this number because your phone won't dial a Google Voice number. That could be a possibility if you have certain types of phone contracts and it doesn't recognize it as a valid number. I mean, I unblock people that should be based on where I think you live, but I can't unblock everybody. And some people called from places that aren't in Florida, and you're supposed to be in Florida. So I didn't unblock people that called outside of Florida. Yeah, Trucker John, I looked at that and I looked to see which numbers I blocked, and I went based on where he should be. So if you're talking about the trolls, why don't you just ask the question in chat, Nick? Didn't they though, says Patriot Takes. The Chinese would never have floated the blimp balloon over the United States if I were president, says real Donald Trump. Why did Trump let 3 Chinese balloons cross in the United States, didn't stop it, and said nothing? This is a cute little video. Wonder what this says. Let's see.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead.
The United States launched a targeted operation against that compound.
They did a lot of shooting and they did a lot of blasting, even not going through the front door. You know, you think you go through the door. If you're a normal person, you say, knock, knock, may I come in?
After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
He died like a dog.
But his death does not mark the end of our efforts.
A beautiful dog. A talented dog.
We give thanks for the men who carried out this operation.
And I don't get any credit for this, but that's okay. I never do. But here we are.
May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
And I'm writing a book. I think I wrote 12 books. All did very well.
The United States has conducted.
So you see who actually got rid of the threat and who claims to have gotten rid of the threat. That is just something else. Yep. I thought Nick Rich was in Florida, but if he's outside of the United States, he might not be able to dial that number. And if he is outside of the United States, then we need to give him more information on how to dial the number. So if he's outside the United States, he needs to tell us where he is, and I will get the codes to dial the number. Yeah. Where are you, Nick Rich? What country are you in? Okay. Okay, so to do that, hang on. Okay, so Nick, I need to do this. So Nick, you were given the number, but you need to dial in these numbers in front of the 772. You have to dial that 0111 and then the 772 and the rest of the number. So this is the earthquake in Turkey right now. So that must have just happened. Hello. Yeah. Okay. You got to turn the audio down so you're not having the echo from where you're at. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Maybe. Is that what you want to talk about? Are you really Nick Rich? I hope so. Well, I hope so. We'll see. This sounds interesting to me. So this is supposed to be Nick Rich, guys. So say hello to Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Hello.
So Nick wants to talk about Donald Trump. So you were saying before, Nick.
Well, I he's literally the Antichrist, if you ask me.
Seems like
What do you
that
think?
sometimes.
Yep. So, how about you go into the story a little more, and I'll just add my 2 cents. Since you're the host of the show, I don't want to take over.
Well, your calling is kind of what that is. You're supposed to get your say, you know.
Right. Well, I think Donald Trump is a very bad man. And I heard he even once made, the whole Russian dozer thing about how he wanted prostitutes to urinate on him. I heard he likes to get drunk and urinate on his roommate's clothes back in college.
Could be.
But it very well could be.
Most of what I've heard about that has been about supposedly wanting to desecrate places where President Obama had been. So that's what I've heard about it.
Oh, yes. Well, it's very possible that Donald Trump's roommate in college had been with an African-American man. Or Donald Trump himself. Who knows? I mean, who are we to judge? It's 2023.
Well, it's hard to know, what's true and what isn't true, but we should only deal with what's true so that we can be above the fray of the other people who deal in hearsay. So that's what I try to do. I try to be above the fray.
I agree. That's why I only report and talk about things that I know I can, get some facts on. And I know for a fact that Donald Trump is a maniac and an idiot.
Okay, thanks for calling. Yeah, I thought that the color was fake. Because it really didn't sound like your manner of speaking, Nick Rich. I just let the caller kind of, go on for a little bit to see whether the caller would do something particularly bad. So, yeah, I just kind of wondered. That's what I think too, Aaron. Yep, I figured that's who it was. So I just kind of wondered if it ever was, Nick that wanted to call at this point. Because it wouldn't surprise me at all. We got a couple more stories coming in. So got another video here from Texas Paul.
Shoots it down the way it should be done. Absolutely. The entire time, Republicans bitched and moaned about something that they did not understand and could not do anything about. Told people to go out in their damn backyards and shoot at it when it was 60,000 feet in the air. They were mocking you when they did that, by the way. My Canadian carpetbagging turd of a senator, Ted Cruz, is still on social media right now talking about the spy balloon after it's been destroyed, and he doesn't even know it because the only thing he gets is his talking points from the Republican outrage machine. Stop electing Republican people. Democrats get shit done. Republicans are just a joke.
Exactly. They are just a joke. So here's Biden being mocked by Kevin McCarthy. First, Biden refused to defend our borders. Not true. Now I won't defend our skies. Not true. Stephen King responds to Speaker McCarthy. He shot it down, you asshole. Jim, I love you. That's cool. That's cool, Jim. And that's a great way to end the show. Folks, we're at the end of the show. I know that we didn't go through very much content from your chat tonight. Some of that is due to the tampering of the trolls. But again, you folks, the people who really participate, you are the reason that the show exists. We will get to your discussions as we go along. It's for you that we do the show. It's for you that this matters. It's for you and what you need to do. And it's to get the word out there. Share the show, get the word out there, let others know about the show. You can outnumber these trolls. You can make them go away by ignoring them. And, you know, I'm going to keep coming here every week. And I'm going to keep giving you the kind of show that you want and the kind of show that you demand. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much to our wonderful moderators. And we'll see you here next week. And I'll hopefully be on time. This week I was kind of a little bit under the weather, and I even thought about not doing the show at all. But as you see, I mustered up and got the show on the air. So see you again next week. Thanks you so much. Thank you so much for being here for Freedom Speech and You. Bye now.